Everyone, welcome back to the channel, and here I'm here to talk about, there's a housing crisis. No, there is not. No, there is not. Are housing prices up? Yes. What? Are you kidding me? Housing prices are up? But I live in Toronto. This is for Canada, by the way. Housing prices are down 25%. What am I going to do? Oh, no. I live in Vancouver. Housing prices are down 20%. Oh, there's a crisis. Oh, my Lord. So, I'm here to explain that there is no housing crisis. And the media is like a dog with a brand new T-bone with a whole bunch of meaty bits on it. They just won't let it go. They'll find the one guy that got kicked out, or they'll find the one guy that couldn't buy a house. I want to explain something to you, and it has math. So a lot of people are going to click off because it has math. But are rents up? Yes, indeed, rents up. I would say rents have gone up 50 to 60% in the city that I live in. But if you were here 5 years ago, which there is no context in these stories, rents were down, vacancy was 12%, housing prices were down 30%, and nobody wanted to buy a house, and nobody wanted to rent, and nobody wanted to come to my city. But now that everybody wants to come to the greatest city in Canada, the world, I would say, mind you, our government will probably ruin it, but provincial government, that is. Hey, why do they keep saying there's a housing crisis? Well, you know why? People got used to really cheap rent, and they still want the cheap rent, and who wouldn't? But there is no crisis. Are rents up? Yes, rents are up. Have some people gone crazy? Yes, some people have gone crazy. Is housing up? Yes, it is. As of the filming of this video, I want to point out the average price for a single family home where I live is $696,700. $700,000. Wow. Well, in Toronto, that's $2 million. In Vancouver, that's $2 million. I think we're cheap. It's why people are moving here. But is it cheap? Is it expensive? Is it too high? Is there a crisis? Well, there is not, and there's a reason, and the media is not going to tell you. So anyone that watches this is going to be informed on something that nobody else is, and the media won't tell you about it. Nobody will tell you about it. You know why? It's complicated, and it takes more than 30 seconds to say. So here I go. Boomers, my generation. Millennials, my son's generation. The Millennials is the largest generation in the country, around the world. Period. The boomers got reduced down through COVID quite nicely, thank you. But we got to look at what are the boomers doing, because they've driven the economy for the last 40 years, and 50 years really. What are the boomers doing? Well, I'm the last 3 years of the boomers. I'm at the tail end. So I'm kind of like, oh, I'm a boomer, but am I a boomer? Of course I'm a boomer. I do what boomers do. So, the older boomers, okay? The older boomers are 75 years old, 70 years old, and the media has sold this story that the boomers are going to sell their big houses and move and blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? The boomers are not selling their big houses. I sell real estate. I go on evaluation at least once a week, and I never hear from them again because, you know what? They don't want to sell their house. They should sell their house, and they should move, but they don't. 1 in 1,000, maybe 1 in 10,000, are smart enough to make the move. I can give examples of people that have done it and are very happy. Okay? Most people will not. So the boomers don't want to sell their houses. And the millennials, the millennials, they're not going to buy houses. They're going to be renters. Guess what? The smart millennials, like people I know that listen to me, already own houses. They bought them 3 years ago when they were cheap. Really cheap. Like $150,000 cheaper. And their friends didn't, because they were renting and staying in the bed. But the smart ones went out and bought. Because guess what? Those millennials now, not the oldest ones, but the ones that are coming around 30 years old. Remember, every generation does things a little bit later than the generation before. So the boomers bought houses a little later than the greatest generation. And it's just how it works. So the millennials are going, hey, how come every time we go do something, we're going to Jordan's house? Because Jordan owns his house. And Frank don't. And Susie don't. Jordan does, though. So he's got the backyard, so we always go to Jordan's house. Well, what the hell's up with that? That's not fair. I want a house. And guess what? The millennials have figured out for their financial future, the best thing to do is to own a house. So what do? So they ran into the marketplace and bought everything up. The boomers do not want to move. So let's mosey on out to the street to show you what a boomer street looks like. So here we are. This is a boomer neighborhood. Boomer, 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 boomer. All these wonderful houses. Look at these trees. Walking down the middle of the road. And when you're looking for boomer houses, this is where they are. And people are like, boomers are moving. Guess what? Boomers are not moving. They have no desire to move. They only move when they have to. And this is why there's a housing crisis. Well, not really. Let's go back to the whiteboard. We're back, and we're at the whiteboard. So, are we expensive? The inflation-adjusted price is $683,000, $642. Now, if you can see this graph, which I don't think you can because my pen was running out, in 1980, the average price was $100,000. If you apply inflation to that $100,000, so if inflation is 5%, it goes to 105. If it's negative 5%, it would go to 95. Whatever the inflation rate was since 1980 to today, this is the number you get, $683,000. But we're $696,700. So we have gone by that by just a little bit, which I really tried to point out. But this inflation line, which I drew straight to smooth it out, it really goes like this. The average price went below the inflation line for quite some time until 2001. We went above the line until 2007, and then of course the financial crisis hit. Now in Canada we didn't get hit that hard, but we did get hit. And we dipped below the inflation line and we stayed there until 2023. That's right. From 2007 to 2023, if you bought a house in the city I live in, Calgary, Alberta, you paid less than the inflation-adjusted price. You got an incredible deal. If you're out buying now, you're buying slightly above the inflation-adjusted price, but does that mean it's expensive and there's a crisis? Are there not a lot of houses for sale and the sellers are in control? Absolutely. Is it hard to find a house now than compared to 5 years ago? Absolutely. Are rents up and there's not that many available? Absolutely. But that's what it was like in the 80s. Well, no, there was lots of rental. But you wanted to go buy a house in the 80s? My first mortgage was 16%. How would you like to see that instead of 5.5%? So there is no crisis. It's temporary. And remember, write letters to your MLAs, wherever you live. Do not have the government fund anything. Government cannot build houses to alleviate a housing problem. You can change the zoning to get more density, but you cannot put money into it. You screw it up. Every example around the world of every housing project a government has ever done just gets screwed up. It's just a boondoggle waste of money. So, let's do it right. And remember, it takes 3 years to build a high-rise. This is not going to be solved. But there are places to rent. There are reasonably priced places to rent comparatively to the average salary. And you can still get houses about the inflation-adjusted price. Thank you. There's no crisis. You can say there's a crisis. In 3 years, mark my words, as time to this video, we'll be making videos about how there are houses everywhere and rents are coming down. Because this is the cycle. And the media doesn't tell you that. So thank you for tuning in. I'll see you in the future. And I hope you really enjoyed the picture of the beautiful street where all the boomers live.